Peace, 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 peace. I wanted to get into this word, integrity. But first, I want to say thank you for joining my video. I don't have a lot of followers, a lot of viewers, because social media is now cracking down on people that tell the truth about what's going on in this world. And they want to stop it, you know. People like me want to stop the lying, the evil, the deceiving, because, I don't want my children or my great grandchildren, skipped over grandchildren, to have to deal with this type of behavior. You know, we come from a great people, you know, and coming from these great people who designed the world, who named everything, who understood the elements and understood God, we got to get back to that. And that's where integrity comes in. Let's hear it out.
Integrity.
Right? Firm adherence to a code, or especially moral or artistic values. Incorruptibility. So we don't have integrity now. We have integrity within the box or the belief system that we designed, or they designed as we grew up, making fun of somebody, bullying somebody, not accepting people for certain orientations that they manifest in their in their confusion. We just lack integrity, and the word is the definition that was given here is a noun. Yeah, we lack integrity, and words are frequency, sound, vibration, and they come and they that's where they start, vibration first. That's why when you speak, that's why you have that brother that says, oh, you can move things with your mind, and he moving shit with his mind, and you just got to think about it. It's frequency that's doing that. Whatever we talk about manifest. These people have been talking about the corrupt government for years, and it is only going to be a tipping point at a certain point, and the internet brings that. So words have energy, and those energies manifest in the world that we have. So because you don't understand what you're saying doesn't make those words come out void. You know what I'm saying? They don't follow intent. They follow the frequency that they're linked to, right? Integrity, noun, right? In the etymology dictionary. This is the origin of words. 14th century. Innocence, blameless, charity, purity. So, does the news have integrity? Does Trump have integrity? Does Hillary Clinton have integrity? Does Bill Barr have integrity? And how do you figure out what integrity is if you don't know what it is? How do you know if somebody has integrity if you don't know what it is? Some people say something is half true or half false. It's like, that's how everything is. Nobody has the full truth. I could tell you about the Bible, but there's books that contradict it. But at the same time, they're aligned. How are they aligned? That's on you to figure out the integrity of those things. Soundness, wholeness, completeness, figuratively purity, correctness, blamelessness, you know, from Latin, integra tenem, Old French, integru, or directly from Latin. So usually it comes from old, goes here, this is before this word, then you have this word, which is the first one, then you have this, right? Which would be the beginning, a whole number, a fraction, you know, a whole complete, noun, Latin. So that's what integrity is, right? And when you're dealing with integrity, you look at people's patterns of telling the truth and their patterns of lying. Lies always dissolve because there's nothing supporting it. Truth always supports itself, even from people that have no dealings with each other, right? All right, so let's look at this. These people, this guy in the top left, he's gonna explain a little bit about what's happening with food.
Extraordinary series of all of the vulnerabilities across the United States from decades of deliberate mismanagement. So tell us a little bit about yourself and then segue into your evaluation of the food supply chain as it looks for the next year and a half.
Thank you, Robert. Yes, uh, just a little bit. I spent 18 years in Eastern Europe, and so I experienced the collapse of the Soviet supply chain. When I came back to the United States and I started to identify it, I saw our vulnerabilities. I said, "Oh my goodness, because of our economics of scale of food production, the majority of our food is produced 2,000 miles away from New York City."
So the guy in the top right, he's a CIA agent. He used to be, but there's another guy that says once a CIA agent, always a CIA agent. So to me, he's still a CIA agent, but he's had ability to meet crazy people, so or people that have experience in these different fields. So this guy is explaining how America outsourced everything, even down to the food. Who came up with that idea, right?
Fairly close to that. And if that goes down, we're in trouble. So I looked at all the vulnerabilities and came up with what I would consider one is we have no food security in the United States. And food security means both production and access to it. Of course, COVID-19, whatever you look at it as, it started to collapse the supply chain. So the solutions are that we have to recreate a very strong and healthy food grid that we had back in the 1960s. When we were all kids, we knew that the dairy was right down the road and the farms were right down the road, and so
this is let me
slip. And but we're somewhat behind the eight ball in that we have a shortage of farmers already. The average age of a farmer is about 65, and
the average age of a farmer, like these people came over here, bro. Let's think about what we're hearing here. Let's think about it. These people came over here in the 13th century, right? 1400s, 1492, 1500s. They don't know how to farm. They don't know how to clean themselves. They just coming off of rulership of the Moors, and now the Germans are moving east, taking over Europe, pushing out the Moors out of everywhere: France, Italy, Spain, at that time it wasn't called Spain, but Portugal, Ireland, Scotland, pushing out all the serpent people, Moors. And they come over here, they don't know nothing. Then somehow they say, you know what? Something's wrong with the government that we left in Europe, Britain. Let's cut off ties and build our own government in America. There was no government there in America, here in America. You know, the Iroquois Indians didn't have their own shit, you know. Then they come and they telling everybody, the Native Americans, the white people that's here, oh, we created a new place. We're going to take care of everybody. We're going to do what's right, blah, blah, blah. Now we're in 2020. They've taken all the food, sent it to Europe. They've put TVs in, not the food, they put the food in China. And industrial stuff, China, India, Vietnam, right? All these other places. We're not producing nothing. We're not making our own food. He just said the average age of a farmer is 65. Why didn't we push people into these things so that America can survive more than 200 years? Because they wasn't properly governing this place. They was introducing socialism to the world. And at the beginning of this video, Robert David Steele says that the Nazis won the war. They only had it's only possible that they won the war because America brought them over here in Operation Paperclip. Then they actively destroyed this place since World War II, systematically stealing people's rights through ignorance, through us not knowing. And now they have to come and admit their own faults. This is what you're watching.
And our farms are almost under financial attack. And so what do we do to increase our growing capabilities throughout?
So mind you, okay, hold on. So the tariffs that Trump put in place and all the stuff that we've been doing unmasked $7 trillion, over $7 trillion or something like that. We can't pay back the Federal Reserve and all that foolishness that they're doing. Taxes are voluntary. And the farmers are still losing money. Think about it.
Throughout the country, so that, let's say, 20% of all food needed in a region is grown within 3 hours or 30 miles of that region. And so that's what I've been working on. And there is, the first thing that we need to do is protect our existing farms and upgrading them so that the threats facing them have been neutralized, such as some of Professor McCanney's stuff of putting in EMP, a lack of a better word, circuit breakers, or hardening the local farm, so that if
his windmills.
Yes, and well, the windmills, alternative energies, where the farm can continue to run if the local electricity goes out. So that starts to be a pretty heavy investment for your individual farmer, and your individual, so food security cannot be placed on the back of the farmers. We have to, and security of the United States is the responsibility of all Americans. So
yeah, he's right. He's right. This food security is all of our responsibility. I feel that black people, for lack of a better term, because you don't understand, we're Moors and Israelites, and I'm not gonna. But anyway, he's right. We should have been producing our own food so that we don't have to go to their grocery stores. Should have been doing that. But like I said, the Nazis won. They stole away our knowledge and will to do right by our children and wives. and made sure that we were systematically driven from the family.
So one of the ways to do this across the country is obviously design a very simple prototype that can be put in place. Like Professor McCanny said, he can harden the grid in 6 months. Well, we can harden most of our farms the same within 6 months so that they can continue to produce food year round. And that secures local populations that they have food. They don't have a threat of starvation. And then of course the second part of it is that how do you need more farms, let's say on the East Coast now, so you have to also create a funding mechanism to create them. Now we've got to do it quickly, and one of the models which I looked at was when you look at like McDonald's, for instance. As soon as all approvals are done, received from a township, it only takes like 45 days to build a complete McDonald's. You can do that with farms if you have the guys design it correctly. Just a team comes in, puts in hydroponics, aquaponics, Professor McCanny's windmills, battery banks.
So this is what I believe Trump should do, barring that he wins this year. January 1, say, okay, we're in the process of building farms in every state through either greenhouse or sectioning off little parts of cities. Each city must have I would say, a neighborhood, or each neighborhood should have its own little farm, a little place of where they're growing stuff. We can't continue to allow people to be the only ones feeding the world, feeding America, feeding the United States. Can't allow it.
Banks, instead of the farmer trying to do it individually himself. So literally we can do that. But the only way to do that is to tap into a significant amount of funds. And I look at it as the responsibility of the United States government to provide the funds, because it's a security
You're talking
issue.
about turnkey farms with people trained up just like a McDonald's franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have roving teams that help keep them on track. And of course, the shopping
Correct.
mall.
And that's how I feel. This is a whole nother job opportunity. I mean, I don't know if jobs are going to be in the future, but there's a whole new working opportunity where you create an industry of people that go place to place, making sure that the farms, they know what they're doing. They're making sure that they're fertilized, that the food is growing the way it needs to. Make sure that the regions grow the type of food that is good for that region or that season. Things can go back to being seasonal instead of we just grow everything at one time. This is a very important thing that we have to think about. Remember, this is about integrity, code, especially moral. We need morals. We lack morality. Blamelessness. There's a lot of blame to spread out here.
Malls, the shopping malls that the professor, that James has talked about, could also be used.
Correct. And so you
see, we could re-outfit shopping malls or what do they call them? With the strip malls, we could re-outfit those to be places where you grow food, turn them into greenhouses. I don't think it would be anything to, take the roofs off of these places and build glass and build whatever it is that make a greenhouse, which we should have been doing. And we should be teaching how to grow food in America in the schools. We lack in so many areas. All right, so now that we have that understanding of what these people are really talking about, he also in this video, if you get the time to go look at it, explains the connection between the CIA, the Air Force, and the FBI and what they are doing. But I want to get into Should I get into the Fed right now? Or should I get into Bill Barr? Let me think. Alright, the Fed. Because the Fed is part of the reason. Why we're in this situation. You know, I like to get this because, you know, people fail to do their own research. You know, not my fault, not my problem. Go look into the philosophy. This is who put this whole thing together. And they have their arms within this. Jerome Powell is this guy right here. Check it out.
Change in over 100 years. And in this video, I'm going to explain what they just did, what it means, and of course, most importantly, what you need to be doing.
All right, so the other day I was talking about the Fed and what they talking about inflation. And the interest rates are going to stay low, under 2% or something like that. Which is, you know, can we believe them? Absolutely not. But they're saying that, so.
Right now. Now, this is exactly what the most elite group of the 1% are doing right now, and you should be too. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back. If you are new to the channel, my name is Mark Moss. I do these videos because I believe the only way to have security in life is for us to take responsibility for ourselves, because the system is broken. No one's coming to save you, and that's why you must learn to make money, grow your money, protect your money on your own. Now, if you agree, you want to hear more about these types of topics, click the like button right now so more people hear those topics, and of course, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so you're notified every time I put new videos out. Now, as I was just saying, some really big news came out.
I should have skipped all that shit. What are he talking about here, man? Damn.
From the Federal Reserve last week. It's the third time in 100 years they've changed their directives. Now, I'm going to explain, and at the end, I'm going to give you actionable steps to make, so make sure you stick around to the end. Also, I'm still running the $1,000 Bitcoin giveaway. It ends in just a couple of days, so if you haven't already entered Bitcoin, the hardware wallets in Seoul, Wyoming, and they gather to discuss, well, banking, right? Banking stuff. Imagine this group of banking people, the banking and the monetary elites, and they gather in a room to discuss the world's money. And just thinking about that in my head, it makes me think of this quote from Mayer Rothschild, who said in about 1800, he said,
You see? Come on, man. These people are all connected. Communist people. They're Nazis.
quote, "Give me control of a nation's money, and I care not who makes the laws." So powerful, isn't it? And that just basically means, who cares about the laws? If you control the money, you control everything. That's what he was saying back then. And of course, we know that's pretty true today, or maybe even now more than ever. So these bankers, they get together and they plan, what's next for the world, how to control, how to affect it, how to control the monetary policy. And arguably, the most important and powerful person in that entire room would be the U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Powell. And basically, everybody was hanging on his powerful words, powerful enough to move the markets last week and move them in a sustained move that
See, this stuff is important to understand who's controlling what and how they're controlling it. Trump saying that, people in dark places are controlling Biden, the Clintons, Obamas, all the presidents. This isn't far-fetched when you see what a Rothschild said, right? The same people that created the Federal Reserve. You can see that. So
has really big implications. In fact, what he said was that the Federal Reserve was going to change its policies, change its objectives for only the second time since its creation. Now, to understand this, we have to take a trip back in time. If you're new to this channel, maybe you haven't seen this before, but I love to go back in history. We do this all the time. So let's jump back in the time machine, and we are going all the way back to 1913. This is the year the Federal
People have paid over $1,000 to take trading classes with me, and their results, some of
The Federal Reserve was formed. Its main objective was to establish financial stability in the U.S. by overseeing the monetary policies of the banks. Now, in 1933, the Federal Reserve again changed its policy mandate through champions like Senator Glass and Representative Siegel. You might have heard of Glass-Steagall before. And they increased regulations on banks, and they also created the FDIC insurance, the depositor insurance. But the last big policy shift we saw with the Fed came in the mid to late 1970s.
This is when they went off the gold standard in the 70s, because all the other countries came trying to collect their debt. So the president at that time, I can't remember who it was. I think it was, I'm not gonna say. He introduced the debt note to be used primarily, which was supposedly backed by oil, but we know it's not.
The early 1980s, and that's when the U.S. experienced the worst inflation since the Civil War. Prices of everyday goods and services were exploding higher like crazy by double digits, and Americans found that the amount of money they previously paid for 2 months' rent soon would only cover about 2 weeks worth of rent. That's what inflation does, and it was happening so fast at that time. Now, it wasn't until 1980 when Fed Chair Paul Volcker, he raised interest rates to an astonishing 19% that finally the nightmare ended. 19%, imagine that. We're at like 0% today. Imagine paying 19%. But that was the drastic steps that he had to take in order to curb the inflation. Now, the episode was so horrific that Congress actually changed the Fed's mandate for the first time since 1933. And as I said prior to this, the Fed's primary purpose was to maintain financial stability. Now, this had meant that the Fed was there to stop bankers from going bankrupt. There was banking crises happening, but following the inflationary nightmare of the...
Remember, all this is fabricated things that the Federal Reserve and the Communist Party did, right? The Democrat, Communist, Nazi Party. This is the stuff that they were doing in order to sink us into their control over time. Because no evil happens without somebody creating the conditions for it to thrive.
70s and 80s, the Federal Reserve Act was amended to, quote, promote effectively the goals of maximum employment, stable prices, and moderate long-term interest rates, end quote. So stable prices equals controlled inflation, or at least that's what they think. Now, from this point onwards, the Fed began to target a very low but steady rate of inflation. As this policy developed, the Fed eventually settled on a target rate of about 2%, which of course you've probably heard, at least if you've been on this channel, right? 2%, 2%, 2%. So starting in the early 80s, the modern financial theory began to incorporate this idea as a targeted inflation rate.
All right, so he's explaining inflation, but I just wanted to show y'all the connection between the money and the government, right? And who is behind it, right? Now, here's another person. You know, none of these three people are talking to each other, but they're speaking about the same thing. It's on you to learn the system so you can see through it. You understand? All right, so let's watch Bill Barr talk about these things now.
Okay. Now, I did say that I do think that there appears to be a phenomenon in the country where
Mind you, in 2008, FBI and the KKK. FBI series, detailed work to protect Americans. White supremacists, right here. PBS.org. Watch out, bro. FBI warns white supremacists in law enforcement 10 years ago. Has anything changed? 10 years ago. Obama was in office. He didn't do shit. This is from 2016, October 11, 2016. Trump got elected that year. 10 years before that, Obama knew that the white supremacists joined this shit. Police killing African Americans. Comey said the absence of good information and data has aided in the growing belief that police officers targeted particular communities. So I don't want to hear that they wasn't doing it, because he says it right here.
African Americans feel that they're treated, when they're stopped by police frequently, as suspects before they're treated as citizens. I don't think that necessarily reflects some deep-seated racism in police departments or in most police officers. I think the same kind of behavior is done by African American police officers.
So what he's saying is, right, I get the African American police officers. We'll get to that in another video, because this is already getting kind of long. You understand? What he's saying is it's extremely interesting that the cops are doing too much in particular areas and not in others. So, and he's saying, listen, it's weird. We know. And even the black cops are doing it to fit in.
Officers. I think there are stereotypes. I think people operate very frequently according to stereotypes, and I think it takes extra precaution on the part of law enforcement to make.
So what they do is they get these people in, see how moldable you are, how controllable you are. And that's how you get black police officers that's in there that perceive their own people as criminals or criminal elements, and to move towards them in that type of particular manner. It is all psyop. It's all mind control. So if you can take the most influential people, or the people that can be influenced the most, and you take them and you're able to control what they do and say, you created the police force that will treat minorities in a particular manner.
Make sure we don't reduce people to stereotypes.
This also eliminates the stereotype of, oh, the cops are being racist because now they have black people doing the same thing.
We treat them as individuals.
Because on this program, Jacob Blake Sr., the father, said there were two justice systems in our country, one that shot his son 7 times in the back, and one that let the 17-year-old white gunman walk away after shooting and killing 2 people. Your reaction?
Well, I think the gunman escaped, and the government of Wisconsin is seeking his extradition.
But are there two justice systems here in the United States?
No, I don't think there are two justice systems. I think the narrative that that the police are epidemic of shooting unarmed black men is simply a false narrative, and also the narrative that that's based on race. The fact of the matter is, it's very rare for an unarmed African American to be shot by a white police officer. There were 10 cases last year. 6 of them, the suspect was attacking the police officer physically. So these are rare things compared to the 7,000 to 8,000 young black men who are killed every year.
Because you've said you don't believe there's systemic racism in our justice system among the police, but you did say this. You did say, I do think it is a widespread phenomenon that African American males in particular are treated with extra suspicion and maybe not given the benefit of the doubt.
That's what I just said.
But doesn't that sound like systemic racism?
No, to me the word systemic means that it's built into the institution.
Right there. See, he clarifies it. See, this is where the issue is. People think that law can be biased. It can be biased, but something that is metaphysical, meaning it's not tangible. It's like water. It doesn't fit in your hand. You can't hold it. Law can be manipulated if the people that are in position to uphold the law are crooked. And this is what he explains. The system is not evil. The people within the system manipulating the system are evil.
And I don't think that's true. I think our institutions have been reformed in the past 60 years. And if anything has been built in, it's a bias to non-discrimination and safeguards against that. And so that's what I'm reacting to on systemic. And also, I think we have to be a little careful about throwing the idea of racism around. Racism usually means, that I believe that because of your race, you're a lesser human being than me. And I think there are people.
So that's all he's saying. He's saying, listen, the system is not broken. We can still operate the system effectively if we have the right particular people in positions. The people that's in the system, that's manipulating the system, not holding the Constitution as supreme law of the land. Those people are the problem. Because I know that he knows about this. I know that he knows about all of this. So it's about putting America back on track, because the Constitution was drafted off of something that they needed to make themselves a people, and nobody can be mad at them for that. But they must get themselves under control, right? You have this video, this video, this video. None of these people talk. They all are confirming the same thing. It's in the world. These people are a problem. Need to get them out of our shit. Grow your own food. Invest in technology that will allow you to stop having to work 40 to 80 hours a week. Okay? So with that, guys, I'm Furious Black. I appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, and thanks, guys. Peace.